Aston's CEO, Dr. Ulrich Betz, told me yesterday that the V12 Vantage S is the culmination of everything Aston knows about making a car fun to drive from behind the wheel. And considering A, he's a racing driver, and B, the standard V12 Vantage was hardly dull to drive, that's quite a billing. Essentially a replacement for the V12 Vantage, and thanks to a top speed of 205 miles an hour and a 0 to 62 time of 3.9, the V12S is the fastest car, bar the 177, that Aston has ever made. Power is up 55 horsepower to 565, while it only comes with an automated manual gearbox, has 3-stage adaptive dampers, tweaked styling and variable assisted steering. The step up from the Vanquish Volante, which I drove yesterday, to this, the V12 Vantage S, is pretty significant. The Vanquish is much bigger, it's much heavier, it prefers to be coaxed around the corners, whereas this car absolutely begs you to chuck it around and get on the power earlier and earlier. The steering, it's variable ratio for the first time, so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but when you do, there's loads of feedback and it weights up really nicely in the corners. The dampers, they're adaptive as well, 3 stages. You've got normal, sport and track, and they're really nicely judged, especially on these smooth US roads, of course. And there's a much broader breadth of ability than you get with something like the Vanquish. My only gripe, well, it has to be with this gearbox. It's the latest version of the 7-speed Sport Shift, which is an automated manual as opposed to the traditional torque converter auto you get in the Vanquish. On downshift, well, it blips through those in the blink of an eye, but it's in auto mode and upshifts that it can be a bit jerky. However, if you do a little lift of the throttle just as you upshift, well, you can smooth it out. Now, that might be seen as a bad thing, but for me, I think it actually adds another dimension of involvement with the car. It means you have to learn how to drive it, and when you do, the rewards are pretty amazing. With around 200 kilograms less than the Vanquish to haul around, but the same 565 horsepower V12 engine, as you might imagine, performance with this thing is absolutely savage. If I hit the sport button here, everything sharpens up, and as you can hear, the V12 engine and the exhaust noise behind my head gets a lot more vocal. And even if you have the DSC system in its intermediate track mode, well, you need to be right on it to catch this car at all times, because with all that power, rear-wheel drive and a short wheelbase, it can be a bit of a handful at times. Make no mistake, this is, by quite some margin, the best car that Aston Martin makes. So, does the 138 grand Aston V12 Vantage S keep it up to pace with its rivals? Absolutely, and not only that, this is by far the best car that Aston currently makes. Okay, so the gearbox isn't perfect, and for the same money you can go faster with something like, say, the 911 Turbo, but nothing has the character and tactility of this car. Proof, if you needed it, that Aston is still very much at the top of its game.